Drifter in the Night by George Petnich. Performed by Tom Zania. Ossining, New York is a historic town which runs against the Hudson River in Westchester County. A small population of people represent the community. Known for the Sing Sing prison, many people have said ghosts have arisen from its former electric chair. Ossining, with its beautiful country life and small village atmosphere and Hudson River view, is a sight for sore eyes. In Ossining, everyone is neighborly and friendly with one another. The village bar has repeat customers from all over town. One night at the bar, everyone was watching sports games, playing cards, darts, and pool, when a man in his 30s came in. He went over and said to the people, "Is this a friendly game of cards? What are the stakes?" One of the players said, $5 a hand raises up to $100. "I'm in," he said. One of the card players said, "It's 5-card poker." The card player said, "Where are you from?" He said, "I'm a drifter. I go where the action is." The night and game went on, and he kept on winning until everyone was out, except for one guy. The guy said, "You want to make this a do-or-die game?" The drifter said, "Deal. Raises unlimited." They kept on raising each other. The guy said to the drifter, "I raise you 1,000. The drifter said, "I'm in." The guy said, "I have a straight." The drifter said, "I know when I'm beat. Luck only lasts so long. Sorry, boy, full house." The drifter got up and took his money. The card player was cursing him out, calling him a bastard cheater. One guy said, "Get out of town before we round you up." The drifter got up and walked to the door and said, "Another time you'll thank me," and left. All the people in the bar were watching the card game and said, "Who was he? Where did he come from? Does he have a purpose?" The rain was coming down, and it was 8:30 at night. Mrs. Sheehan was at home when she received a call from her son, John, who was 10 years old, to pick him up at his friend Brian's house. Mrs. Sheehan went to her car. She started it up and put on her windshield wiper. The wind was gusting at 40 miles per hour. The road was hardly visible. To get to Brian's house was a long and narrow road which ran overlooking the Hudson River. She drove slow. Branches were falling in front of her, leaves hitting her windshield. She was in front of Brian's house. She called up John on her cell phone to come out. John got in the car. She turned around and proceeded to drive back home, with it raining and wind gusts now picking up to 55 miles per hour. A deer ran in front of her car. She swerved to her left, and with the dirt and road completely wet, slid off the bank of the cliff. The car began to turn over, rocking back and forth, going down the mountainside, throwing her from the car, and her John didn't escape. She was on the side of the road, fully covered in mud and drenched in rain. She could see her car, which got stuck in between trees hanging on. She began to scream, "My son is in the car!" The engine was still running, the headlights on. She could see the car began shifting. The Hudson River was below. A car stopped and said, "Are you all right?" Petrified, Mrs. Sheehan told him what happened. She said, "My son is down there." They called the police. The fire department and police came. With the wind and rain, mudslides were now in effect. News was all over town. Everyone rushed to the scene. No one could help, with it being dark and the wind gusts and potential mudslides. When suddenly, a man and her son raised from the mountain, all covered in mud. Mrs. Sheehan broke down and cried, "John, you're all right." Just then, the car crashing down the mountainside, turning over, bursting into flames as it hit the river until you couldn't see it no more. She said, "This is the man. Thank you. Who are you?" He said, "A drifter in the night." She said, "This is the man who saved my son." The police and mayor said, "Job well done, and we want to thank him." As they turned around, he was nowhere in sight. The Calling of David West by George Petnich. Performed by Tom Zania. The Upper West Side of Manhattan is full of historic sites. Restaurants, bars, and hotels are many of the attractions for one to see. Enter David West, a mild-tempered human being with flair and gust, who lives in a high-rise residential building with doorman service. 79th Street is where he calls home. He works as a real estate agent for a well-known real estate company. Things were not going as well as David hoped they would be. He was getting less renters and buyers for rentals, co-ops, and condominiums. He was on thin ice in his company. So many things were being said about for his lack of hustle on sales. He would see 30 to 50 potential renters and buyers each week, and either the price was too high or the property or location was not the perfect fit. One day he was coming home, and Daniel the doorman greeted him. "Good evening, Mr. West. Beautiful weather tonight." Mr. West replied, "What street are we on?" Daniel was confused, "Because Mr. West has been living here for over 23 years. Said 79th Street, Mr. West. "Long day at work, renters came down hard today." Mr. West replied, "Of course, this is 79th Street. My mind has been slipping from all my actions at work. If I get any visitors, I'm going to have dinner and go to bed." Daniel replied, "Okay." That night he was dreaming he was making sale after sale on the real estate market. He woke up in a cold sweat and said, "God, I was dreaming." The new day was another financial bust. He had no sales. He came home and said to Daniel, "What time is it?" "Look right next door. It is 6 p.m. Service is starting." Daniel, in his mind, was starting to see the calling of David West. Mr. West decided to take a bus to Battery Park. He was seriously thinking about suicide when a homeless woman approached him and said, "Beautiful night, suicide dreams, right? No love life, financial troubles, life at work not going well." She said, "I went through the same situation, couldn't face the world anymore, until one day I lost everything and fell to the streets. Where do you reside?" He replied, 79th Street. She said, "There you will visit on your journey, and there you will find peace within yourself." Mr. West was thinking about the challenges he was facing with the world in front of him. "I can't face another day." She said, "There are better days surrounding you. There's a place you can go on 79th on the Upper West Side. You'll find peace there." He said, "I'm going to start a new life." He jumped up and walked to the bus and went to his building. He said to Daniel, "I had a bad experience tonight. I'm so glad to see you." Daniel said, "Who are you?" He replied, "Mr. West, I live here." Here was my driver's license. He went to his wallet, and it was missing. Confused, he ran out and went to the next building. Daniel followed him. He disappeared. Daniel said to the director, "He came in a delusional state of mind. He said he was Mr. West, who hadn't paid his rent in over a year. He lost his job and mind, and the owner evicted him. He was a good man. Too bad life took its toll on him." The building next door was the 79th Street West Side Funeral Home. Tonight, 6 p.m. sharp, a wake and service in memory of the life of one David West.